Okay, here we are, Table Talks number 12. I invited a friend of mine, Robert van Ede. He is, as we call, biohacker and is the man of the quantum scan, as I call him. And can you tell the people what is a quantum scan?
Yes, of course. First of all, it's always funny for me to do it in English, but we always talk Dutch.
Yeah.
So forgive me if I switch to Dutch sometimes. So what is the quantum scan? Well, the quantum scan is, before I can fully explain, I actually have to say why we call it a quantum scan, because what is it actually measuring? It's like a scan that can read all of your biomarkers. It can basically go into 19 billion points, so 90 billion points it can read, and it can give complete overviews. There's a whole database of specific things it can show in health. But why quantum is because it measures light. And so what is quantum? Quantum is basically, it means potential, like everything is energy. Like if you have a body and you go into an organ and you go deeper into the cell, and if you go beyond the cell, there's atoms in the cell, and then beyond the atoms is 99.99999% energy. So then energy is either it's a wave of potential or it materializes into matter. So if you go from that point, then quantum is also important, because if we look at this body, then it has, we say on average it is 70 trillion cells.
Yeah.
So if every single cell is communicating energy,
Yeah.
and it's communicating information basically, so sending and receiving, then within that sending and receiving, there's a lot of information happening, and that's what the scan can actually measure with light. And now there's a bunch of older technologies that were made to measure with sound waves, which is already awesome.
Yeah.
But then light is, like they say, it's like 100,000 times more
Precise. Yeah,
So-
I've lost him already, and that's why I trust him also, because he is very skilled and very refined in what he does, and that's great. What I always tell my clients when I feel them in my facial energetic release sessions or other sessions I facilitate, and I feel that okay, this body is responding well on the release, but there's more cluttered in this body. Maybe there's something with food, maybe there's something with collagen, elastin, or other qualities that I can sense that are not just, but I cannot call them. So then I send people to him, and the way I explain it is that light has a reference, and and if the light goes through something without disturbance, then you're healthy. Then that cell is healthy on that level, on that frequency. And if it's disturbed, then there's something wrong there. And he can measure that. That's what I say.
Yes.
That's the simplified version of what you said, I think. And you get a big report. I did it myself, and I was flabbergasted, because I did a lot of work on myself, a lot of emotional release, and all the emotions that I released in my life were in the report. Is the write-up. And he didn't know me at that point very well, so it was for me like, well, how can he know that? That's you measure it in DNA, and in the DNA is stored what kind of emotions I processed. I knew them already, but now I had the proof in the pudding that it was in my DNA also. So what you can do is cancel that disturbance later. And also in food, there's intolerances in food, because you eat stuff that you become intolerant for, and you can measure, in this case, what's good for you and what's not so good for you. And that's very personal in this thing. And the other thing is that you can also see if there's parasites or other guests in your system living. And these guests, he can also measure, and also he can measure when they're gone. So if you detox, then you can also check if the detox really worked. Even if you use medicine, you can even test the medicine that you use, if it's really working for you, and what kind of damage, the side effects of medicine, how that side effect is affecting your body, which is super interesting. And now we do in sacred relax alignment sessions, we do also checks if the alignment really works, if the meditation and the alignment of your vertical axis in the codex of light on sacred relax amoris is really working in this case. And that's awesome too. So you can check if the magic is working by not magic, really technical aid of light measuring.
Yeah, it might be interesting also to say, why would this exist? So why does this technology exist? And then how can it actually measure it? Because I feel that most people they feel like, okay, it feels like magic until they understand the gist of that. So I'll try to do a great job of explaining that. For something that big to be there has to be a lot of money involved, right? Most of the time, there's a lot of research and development. So why would people go as far as that to create it? Which is, and the simple explanation is because they use it for elite troops and like people like astronauts, so people going to space. And if you need something that you can do from a distance, because if someone is there and whatever something goes wrong with the liver, it costs a lot of money to get the person back and then get him well and put him back or replace the person. So they had to know what can we do at a distance. And in quantum we have quantum entanglement, right? That you can, and there's non-locality, and there's all these things. And if you want to know more about it, do your own research in all these quantum terms. But the base is they invested so much money to be able to work at a distance, but also to predict what could go wrong in the future, and also see how likely, how healthy is someone, and what can we do to help this person up front. And then the measurements, you got to know that in every cell of your body is the complete information of the whole body. So in the eye, you can do like an iris reading. You can see, the fetus is in the air, and food reflexology, all these things. Everything in it's like the ocean in one drop, right?
Yeah.
So everything in the body works like that. So if nature is very simple, we make it complex, right? So if you look at the body, then you can understand that this is possible, and now you understand all the research, development, and extreme amounts of money that is in there. And then last part is the Russians made it big, and I'm not the only one that say there might be a time that we beg the Russians for us to let us in, because they are so much further with all these things. So from all of that, they did a great thing. And then how it measures is quite simple. It's like mathematics. So it's like the information that your body sends out, and it's picked up by the device, the measuring device. And you gotta understand, this is a medical grade. This is like a very exclusive device.
Yeah.
This device picks it up, and basically it says, "Oh, here's Roland. Here's the optimal, functioning human being, a light being. That's why we call it humans. So the optimal human, right? This would be the information, and then it says like, okay, if we see Roland and what's optimal, we see here are the places where it's not optimal.
Yeah.
And then within all those places that are not optimal, that's also always where I go to see like, hey, how can we optimize that?
Yeah.
And we can see what kind of food would make it better, what kind of food would make it worse. But also within like what you can digest well in food, we can see what kind of foods have a possible intolerance. And it doesn't mean you're bound for forever that you cannot eat whatever hazelnuts or something, but it also says why not, right? For example, it spikes histamine. Now, maybe histamine is now more with hay fever season, and so I work on all these dimensions with people, but the most important one is always the deep inner work, which is like trauma imprints.
Yeah, trauma cramps the fascia, and we know that from earlier talks. And but it's a good way to release trauma from inside, to understand why it's there, and how to open it up from this angle. And it's interesting, and it's payable actually, because it's an expensive machine, but it's in the reach of most people to do this in their lives, so they can have a super scan, which is much more advanced than pre-scan or other companies. They use even bigger and more complicated materials and machines, but it's more basic. This goes way beyond, because you measure frequencies of light, and that's preciser than magnetic fields or other ways of measuring people in layers in other scans. So I think it's the best way to scan your health and have an update of what's going on in your body. Besides the fact that you can also tweak your food, and that you have a better energy in your life. And also, Robert, I really admire your expertise in detoxifying bodies, and we have later today we will record other movies to guide people around this subject, because there's a lot of anxiety around it, which is not really necessary. I did some detoxification myself, and I can trust him. I must say. He said if he says it's doable, then it's doable, and so you can detoxify. A lot of people have stuff in their intestines and in their liver and stomach, but also in the fascia. And it's a good way to detoxify it. And there's easy ways, but there's also complicated ways. And he's really an expert. By measuring, he can really guide you through it. And that's also an interesting part of this quantum scan.
Definitely. And it was very interesting for me to see. I see certain. I probably work with like over 300 people with deep work in the scan, and I saw patterns, and there's a few things that always come back, and one of the main things is always the intestinal lining. I always saw the mucosa of the intestines. You see these. It shows you where there's like a lot of entropy, or where there's a lot of like resistance, or a lot of energy gets lost, basically. And then you see that especially the lining of the gut, is there something wrong. So I help people to really get that whole thing out. It's like over 2 kilos of like plaque. If we can get that out and make that healthy again, and then if we can get the liver unclogged and get that healthy again, then you're really ready for to get all those microorganisms out of the system, to create a healthy environment where microorganisms don't feel like living, and all those things. It's you can see that in a lot of people that in these days of day and age, it's very likely for people to get into those troubles, and if you have those troubles, then they will have big health issues. So there's a few of these things. Like some things are you see it a lot with people that they have digestive issues, but you also see that things are harder to digest. I mean, even what we're doing now, if it's like whatever 15 minutes or how long we will go. Information is harder for people to digest because there's so much to digest.
Yeah.
You know, people, they don't have the intention anymore to digest it all. So all this is also zeitgeisting. It's something that's happening right now, and it's my job, me being a nerd, to make it practical for everyone.
Yeah. How come you became a nerd in this?
I do believe that it's within me. So
when did it started? When you were sporting? When you were extreme? He did extreme sports.
Yeah.
And you got sick.
Yeah. So there's a couple of interesting things. One is that I was always about exploring things. So now I also do it with information and geeking out with like reading stuff and listening to stuff. But I was always about like exploring the area. I think, you know, if there was no technology, I'd probably know even much more about the birds and seeds and all the plants and everything. But I can geek out on those things too. But also, yeah, life humbled me. I mean, I was in the hospital when I was very young. I had all these like weird things going on, and the normal thing was not applying to me, which is always based in a lot of traumas. So there's a lot of stuff I had to like, you know, revisit. I had to like fix, heal, live through, grief, and all of that. And I think the deeper you go, the deeper layer you see. There's a whole other level. There's a whole different world. And what I'm learning now is that I worked very hard to get over all of these things, and I believe it doesn't have to be that hard. And I believe that me doing all that heavy lifting means that other people don't necessarily have to do it. I believe that the closer we live to nature, the more pure we become, the more of a vessel of love we become, the more light, literally, we become, the more it will enlighten others.
Yeah.
And without saying people are further or less far, but I think that's the work I'm doing. And I mean, obviously you're so just as much a nerd as I am, so that's why we connect so easily. Yeah. But I think that I've always seek to upgrade myself from a place of lack to, you know, to become the perfect guy. Sometimes I think that I wanted to, you know, be a perfect man so I can be like a, you know, complete the fairy tale of what I think my mother should have lived through. I wanted to show my dad how amazing I was in sports and everything. And when I thought I was over those things, I would project them onto other things, like knowing a lot, of being super spiritual or all that stuff. In the end, I focus now much more on making it practical. So if someone comes to me, it's my dedication to meet that person where he or she is, and then see where we can go from there. By demystifying all the stories. Yeah,
everybody can only heal within their container. Can you also explain this thing? Because it can't be light in there.
Yeah. So it's interesting. So
I have the same, but mine is empty now. If you hold it under the water, or 2 months later, then it was charged, then it loses its frequency.
Yeah, so it's interesting because I'm actually also wearing this today, which is not an accident. Maybe it messes with my microphone, by the way. So it's like I learned through Ibrahim Karim from biogeometry. Like there's something that that something like energy goes out, especially when energy, or even shape. Shape is like frozen music, like frequency. It's a shape.
Yeah.
This is shape on top of something, or energy onto something or in something. It can dissipate. Same as people buy all these crystals, but then you have to charge your crystals. You have to remove, you know, especially if you have like the black crystals. You know, they take a lot of energy. You have to clean them, and there's multiple ways. But energy goes out, and you have to charge it. That's the basis of it. And one of the ways actually, which is, I'm such a nerd when I say all these things, but it's like if you go to church, right? There's this like this vesica that you walk through.
Yeah.
Now a vesica is a way to clear something. If you make a vesica, you clear the energy. Now, what does that have to do with this thing? It's something like this is basically a carrier that can carry information, and with the scan, it measures the frequency, but it can also install something. It can also program some energy on it, so it can also send like energy.
A canceling frequency.
Yes,
Yeah.
it can cancel things, but it can also like basically upgrade it, or it can say this is the optimal frequency of the stem cells, which is great. You want that information. So if you put it on there, what does it do? It's basically what Einstein said. He said frequency medicine will be the future, right? So it's called infoceutical instead of pharmaceutical. So this infoceutical, basically, there's information. So if you eat red meat, I think that's we can't go into the whole debate, but I think it's the greatest source for iron to get into the body. I mean, you can eat dates and whatever, but let's say iron in red meat, great source. You can take a supplement, right? So you take the supplement. What happens? You get information. There's information in the meat. There's information in the supplement. It's called iron. Your body reads it as information, iron. It extracts it. There's of course a physical aspect to it. Why it's so easily digestible for our brains. Also that that's iron there, and it will be good for me. Now. You can also put iron on the chip, and then the frequency of iron will get into the body. Now, there's a certain capacity of the amount that you can put on there, especially if we talk about, if you say vaccination damages, or if you, I mean, I don't know if I should say this on a podcast.
You can say everything.
We get a shadow ban. But anyway, there's like things that can damage also the system, or like certain spike proteins or viruses. I'm not only talking about this certain virus, but there's multiple viruses and spike proteins, also like herpes or Epstein-Barr, or or microorganisms, or even emotions that are stuck by. I had this whole thing with rejection going on a couple of years ago, and I was like, okay, it was the only emotional thing that I could find within the more upper layers. That's a way I can see that I'm doing pretty well in that aspect in my life right now. But this rejection thing keep on coming back, and I inverted it, so I can say this is the rejection frequency. Now let's say, what would be the opposite frequency of let's say rejection? So I inverted the rejection, I put it on the chip, and then within the next weeks, I felt this weird shift in how I would respond to what you can call rejection. I really saw it as, hey, if someone asks in the restaurant, do you want coffee? And I say, no, I want tea. That was just how I would see if someone was like, no, I don't want a certain thing that you have to offer. And it's like, okay, you just have a different preference. That has nothing to do with me.
No.
So that really shifted with like changing something on the chip. Now, if I were to do that, if you say, okay, great, I have these 30 emotions, can you invert them all? Then will you go spiral, spiral out of number. So there's a certain way.
It's not very good for your brain.
No. So that's how we work with the chip, and it works for 4 to 6 weeks. And water clears it, same as water clears you when you take a shower, also energetically every day.
And what about sweat?
Yeah, I mean, if it's a little sweat is not a problem. It's soaking. If you take like a sauna with it.
And how does water cancel the frequency?
Yeah, it's interesting. Like same with when you take a shower, it literally
you wash off.
You wash off also the energetic body, and if it's salt water, even more.
Oh, okay. That's why swimming in salt water is so healthy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, that's one of the main things why that's the best body of water. Also because it moves.
Yeah, and because we are a body of salt water.
Yes.
basically.
Yes.
Yeah.
And also because sand has certain, the shapes of sand is also amazing. It also does something. So
Yeah.
that's why the sea and the
It reflects light. I think that's what it is. Okay, that's interesting. I really want to thank you for this enlightenment on this enlightening subject, I must say. Thank you for sharing this with us. And now I can just send people to this video when I have to explain them why they should visit you for a scan.
Yeah.
And so, because before it was quite complicated, and we nerds are not so good in sharing our knowledge. Also, because it's evolving all the time, so it's difficult to say, hey, this is it, because tomorrow it's different. And but anyway, we try to keep you posted on this channel.
Yeah.
Thank you for watching, and let's see you soon.